Hey everyone, this is Sebas from Nextmove, and today I'm going to be walking through the apps from models experience, which is a notebook first experience for working with Nextmove apps. And in this case, we're going to be showcasing the Nextroute engine. So the agenda is one, we're going to be creating a custom decision model that solves a vehicle routing problem using this engine. Two, we're going to run it locally, make sure that it works. Three, we're going to take that model, we're going to push it to a Nextbook cloud application to then four, run it remotely. So let's dive right in. First, we're going to be needing some dependencies to be working. So our first dependency is going to be Nextroute, and our second dependency is going to be Nextmove. However, because we're working with this apps for models experience, we need some additional dependencies. So we're going to be specifying that by typing all here. Okay, so now that that's imported or installed, I'm going to be adding the necessary imports that I already have prepared beforehand. I'm going to be needing Nextroute and the Nextmove package. So diving straight into creating the decision model, we need to first use the new nextmove.model class. So we can create a decision model class that inherits from that nextmove.model. And we have a solve signature, which takes in an input and returns a nextmove output. And in here, we're going to be writing our custom logic for solving the decision model. And this can be named whatever you want. We can go to our community apps, to the Python Nextroute community app, for an example of how to declare that. So in this case, we already have that specified here. We can see that we are turning our input, Nextmove input, into a Nextroute input. We are extracting the input options into Nextroute specific options, and then we summon the Nextroute solver by doing nextroute.solve. We pass it in a Nextroute input and options, and then finally we can construct our output. So I haven't executed these cells. Now that we have our model ready, we can go ahead and run it locally, make sure that it works. So first we need to define the options that the model needs. Let's take this here, or let's take this code from the community apps in which we're defining the options. Let's fix indentation. So we are creating first a couple of parameters, then we create our default Nextroute options, which take in all the configurations of the solver. And then each Nextroute option, we turn it into a parameter to then construct our options object. Because we're in a Jupyter Notebook, we don't really need these two options for input output because we're not working from the terminal. So there we have our options. Now we instantiate the model, which we simply say a model variable, you can name it whatever, is an instance of my decision model class, which is my custom class. And we can define some input data, which if we go back to our community app, we can take this input.json and have it be our input or our sample input. Now to run the model locally, we first declare our Nextmove input. It takes in some data, which is my sample input, and it takes in my options. We obtain the output by summoning our custom solve function that we created or we implemented. And now that we have the output, we can print it. But in here, it's really my solution. Cool. Let's execute this. Oh, I didn't execute the sample input cell. Now let's run the model locally. Model is not defined. Another technical difficulty. Didn't execute this cell. Okay. Now finally, run this model. make sure that it works locally, and I can get an output from it. So now that we know that this custom decision model works, it's time to push it to Nextmove Cloud. And to do that, we first need a cloud client, which receives an API key. And I already have my Nextmove API key defined as an environment variable. And now we are going to be needing a cloud application, which takes in my client to communicate with the cloud. And my application is defined by an app ID. If you already have an application, you can use your ID here. And if you don't, you can go to our Cloud Console, you can create our new app, or you can create a new application using the Nextmove CLI. In my case, I already have an application created, which is called Apps from Models Next Round. Cool. So I define my client, I define my application. To be able to work with these custom decision models, I need a model configuration, which simply tells the cloud how to work with my model. So I need a name, which can be whatever you want to name your model. You can simply name this Next Round model, for example. It takes in the requirements, which are Python requirements that my model needs. In my case, if we remember the imports, we are using nextRoute and nextMove. So we need nextRoute, we need nextMove, and this works like lines in a requirements.txt file. So I can go back to my installation and check out the version of nextRoute 110.1, the version of nextMove 0.14.1. And I can specify that here, 110.1, 0.14.1. Cool. This also needs the options that I defined. And from the model configuration, I can actually create my app manifest, which is a requirement for every application so that it knows how to run with which runtime. Like, for example, is it the Python runtime? So I can create a manifest by calling the from model configuration convenience function. So I just give it my model configuration and I create my manifest from it. And it's finally time to push my model to the application. So to do that, I need my manifest. I need my model that I'm going to be pushing, and my model is an instance of my decision model class. That's really important to understand. I need my model configuration. And finally, I'm going to tell it to use verbose mode so that I know what's going on. So by doing that, it's going to encode that Python model and ship it or push it to the Nextmove Cloud. And this might take a little while, so I'm going to fast forward to when this is finished. Sweet. So this finished executing, and we can go to Nextmove Cloud and check that that latest pushed executable was performed. And now that the model is live on cloud, we can run it remotely. So we can go ahead and say application, new run with result, which will execute a new run and poll for the results. It takes in an input, which can be my sample input, and it receives an instance ID. So every cloud application, custom cloud application by default has a Devin instance enabled. So I'm just going to be using that. And to check the result, I can simply just print the output. So let me run that real quick. Cool. So this returned a result, and I can check my run in my runs table here. We can see the input that I submitted, the details of the run, any logs if I have them, and of course the result. So this is what it's like to work with a custom decision model in Jupyter Notebooks in what we're calling the apps from models experience. Thank you. Take care. Till the next one.